That's a good question. I have people say that there's not enough time to do this. We have class meetings 1 period a week, 45 minutes. So it's not, I've seen models of 15 minutes 3 times a week. We do it just 1 regular classroom period in most cases. Sometimes it gets preempted by art or something, and sometimes we'll have an extra one if there's some kind of a crisis in the classroom or something, but usually 1 period a week.
I think there's an obvious problem with a dress code if what we're trying to do is have a situation where students can say what they want so long as it doesn't actually cause a problem. And there's lots of things you can express that won't cause a problem. But the school uniform, just says, no, here's the only thing you're about to say. Yes, there's a whole range of things that you might say and that might not cause a problem, but we're not going to allow it because there's just less arguing. If we generally let people wear what they want and only go after people when there's a problem, then the people who are causing the problem are going to say, oh, well, gee, you're letting everybody else wear what I want, and you get into these arguments. So we're just going to have one uniform. So that's where the reasoning comes from. I think that's throwing out the baby with the bathwater. Now, in terms of a legal question, the times that school uniforms have gone into court, the courts have generally said, sure, it's fine to require a uniform because most of what people wear doesn't express anything. Courts are sort of willing to say, well, if you have a T-shirt that has some words on it, okay, words express something. But if there's a school uniform that says you're going to wear black pants and a white shirt, and you want to wear a green shirt just to express your individuality, well, you aren't actually expressing anything. A green shirt doesn't express anything. Well, look around the room. Of course, our wardrobe expresses something. I'm up here in a coat and tie, and other people are wearing different things. It all expresses something. But as a legal matter, courts have been, I think, sort of willfully closing their eyes to that and just sort of saying, oh, well, they want to wear different clothes, but that isn't an expressive choice. Therefore, the school uniform is okay with us.
With the idea that doing progressive work is a good end in itself. I mean that when even when you're saying that we want their generation to do better, I just don't think there's a lot of evidence that any generation has done better. I mean that again you're sort of grounding that in this sort of teleological and progressive notion that things are continually getting better, and as you say, I mean, I think there's a tremendous amount of evidence right now that lots of things are worse, and that and I guess what I'm suggesting is that when you reach the place where you say, I can't imagine any genuine practical answers to the giant problems. I mean, this book, I mean, I go around and say the stuff that I say, and inevitably someone comes and says, well, okay, what should we do? What should we do different? What's the answer? How do we fix this? How do we fix the horrors of racialized capitalism for the last 400 centuries? And the choices you have there are either to wax into a kind of Obama-esque sort of utopianism of we're the people we've been waiting for, or something like that, or say I don't know. I mean that given the social, economic, and historical arrangements that we're dealing with now, there is no answer you can give to that question that is not just utopian. And so the what I think that you're trying to prevent there is the disappointment that you, I mean, look, all of the 60s radicals who grew up to be stockbrokers, I think, are the example that we want to counter, to say, you don't want to have that happen to you. You don't want to get to your 40s and say, gosh, this isn't working. I keep losing. I keep, and all my friends are driving fancy cars and buying houses, and, I want enough money to buy a pizza on the weekend. And so, because the temptation then becomes to tell the story that all of our parents said to us when we were 20 and they were 40, and say, well, that's cute. Your radical ideas, your hope is all good, but someday you're going to grow up and have a mortgage like me, and then you'll know that not only is it inevitable that this is what is going to happen to you, but that it's somehow right. And I think that's what we want to prevent is look, and it's kind of like being a little Eichmann in an institutional setting like this. If you admit that every day you're making all kinds of compromises, every day, you might grow up and get the mortgage and all that kind of stuff and have to pay the light bill, and as long as you're talking about that as a genuine compromise rather than a change to something better, rather than having gotten over your naive and youthful hope and understanding that really poor people are poor because it's their fault and stuff like that. That's the kind of thing I think you're trying to prevent. You're trying to prevent the disillusionment and despair and the very strong forces that come at you when in terms of trying to force you to stop articulating what's genuinely and obviously wrong with the society. I mean that force is extremely powerful. I mean, one time I was giving a talk like the talks that I give, everything is bad, and then some guy afterwards stood up and he said, well, you've told us how everything is bad now. What are you doing to fix it? And I was immediately on the defensive. I was immediately, I take soup to people with AIDS, and and in the middle, I caught myself and I said, look, I'll talk to you about what it is I do or don't do, but it could be that I just go home and eat greasy fast food on my couch watching corporate television all night. That doesn't make what I'm saying any less true. And the pressure that we get to be perfect before we're allowed to speak, and the pressure that is I think on especially younger people to live these sort of uncompromised lives that are impossible in a compromised world, force people to say, well, maybe the obvious wrongs that we can see on a daily basis before our antennae have been fried in some irrecoverable way. Maybe that's not true. Maybe it's okay to get a job as a stockbroker. Maybe it's okay to, live in a big house, and then you're looking the other way at people on the side of the road when wanting money and stuff. So that's not a lot maybe to offer